Yo, what is good everyone? This is some guy on the internet who doesn't care about his username, and today I'm going to be showcasing the additions to Freeside from the project True Vegas and Lone 6. The title is actually not clickbait. I have genuinely made it almost 10 times the size. Honestly, if not a little more. And as you can see here, I have done a lot. You can see the canopy, you can see many different casinos. And essentially I'm making this video because I want to showcase much more quickly for people less invested what this project is actually doing. This is for just people on the Nexus or on YouTube, and also for future potential team members. So we're going to be showcasing everything in Freeside, and for those of you returning to the project, this is version 1.1. And in version 1.1, I have essentially only focused on Freeside. So if you have already explored through the file yourself, really the only things that have been changed is within Freeside. Now, it has done a lot, and the big thing that I have done is I have polished Freeside World and Freeside North. So the two vanilla portions of Freeside. Now, I also have all the new additions to Freeside that I have created, and I have made the layouts of them much different and polished them a little bit more. But essentially with Freeside itself, I really polished it to an extent to where it's pretty much close to what it would need to be in an actual playthrough. And I decided to do this really because of a phenomenon that I'm going to reference Tim Kaine, and that's that even amongst even amongst developers, there's many people that cannot see the potential of something until it's like almost fully materialized, or even worse, completely polished. So there's many people, and it's not a lot of people, honestly. I would say like 75% of the people who commented, honestly over that, commented, subscribed, liked, whatever, were just like, yo, this is gonna be awesome. But there's some people that, you know, are either low investment or whatever, and they really could not see the potential here, which is just kind of insane to me. But that motivated me to polish everything so that I have some really good photos, and essentially just to make this way more marketable. Some of the assets I have not made distant custom load for. Now, when it comes to FNV load gen and X load gen, it doesn't load every single thing. So there's some things in here that wouldn't load. So what I did was, and I'm going to tell you how to do it, is you go into your ini and you change U grids to load, and you set it from 5 to 7. That will essentially make you load 2 times the distance all around you of things. So it'll give you a more long distant view, so you can see some of the stuff that I had from the distance, because if you don't have it, like these signs and stuff won't be here in the distance. So just an FYI. But as we can see here, I have made, oh, and it may crash quite a bit, honestly, because I have NVR going, I have the U grids and everything, but there's that. I think I have God mode on. Okay, I do. Alrighty. We're gonna turn this back off now. So my frame rate is going to be in the ground because I have OBS on, I have NVR running, I have the U grid set to like where it's 2 times as far. So you're gonna see a lot of glitching. I hope people don't mind. But I really went the distance to detail everything here. Now, people that are seeing from version 1, you're seeing how big of a difference there is. The level of detail that I have added, like I said, I wanted to polish this to where it looks pretty close to how it would when we actually release this. So this gate here, it does not open unless you have already went through it in the pit, because there's a script connected to it from that DLC, because it's used in that DLC. So you have to TLC through. But some of you who have seen my strip entrance video, you're going to be somewhat familiar with this. I did it at nighttime to make it more atmospheric, but honestly NVR during the day just makes everything looks so much more insane. So there's that. Also too, I haven't scripted the lights to go on and off at certain times, so that's kind of why I just did the nighttime thing. But as you can see, they have the bright strobe lights here, or whatever they're called, and the entrance. You know, I'm actually going to point stuff out a little more. So now the area, and I'm completely doing this off the cuff, so I really didn't have like too many plans here. But a huge thing that I'm trying to do is actually make the strip feel like a fortified, high-tech center. Like a place that, like Mr. House said, it can reignite the high-tech center. I really want it to feel like that. And Mr. House being the technologist, like in the series, like Robco has monopolized the marketplace, and he's supposed to be one of the most technologically advanced people. I wanted Vegas to kind of reflect that. And so another thing as well is Howard Hughes, which is who Mr. House is based off of. He was an eccentric, paranoid millionaire, and so essentially I'm making Mr. House more, not directly paranoid, but like his security, obviously more high-tech and more kind of over the top. And it just helps further add to the mystique that Vegas is like this just gem in the wasteland that genuinely got preserved. So you can see this phasing in here. That is the zip line, and we are going to make it actually functional. Also, we have even the support beams, and I'm going to kind of make some more kind of branches coming out, but for now that's just representative of things. Also, I probably should have explained this stuff over here a little more, but yeah, I'm gonna explain that real quick. So these things, they are in my design document. There's a section where I talk about Sani stations, and it'll probably have a different name, but essentially now in pre-war they made technology that is basically like a shower without water. And so this is going to explain how people keep themselves clean in like areas where they don't have access to enough running water to take showers. It's because retro future tech. So yeah. And then this is here for like taxis and stuff, and then vending machines, and then, you know, a lot of people coming from Freeside, you know, a lot of them are fucked up, right? Because, you know, it's ghetto and there's a lot of stuff going on there. So there's like a med station here with that. There's supposed to be I forget what they're called. A Mr. Handy was in there. I don't know why he's not showing up. Oh, this sequence isn't happening because I have the markers lifted up so that I could edit this. But yeah, they have a metal detector now. This is where they log who's came in and out. This area over here, this is going to be down, obviously, but this area is going to lead to a shantytown. So there is now a designated shantytown because modders love to make shantytowns in Freeside, and I just feel like it kind of takes away from Freeside's vibe. And so this building is a placeholder. Eventually I'm gonna have a custom built building with like a massive hole in the middle of it that people travel through, and you know, it's just a part of spectacle. But this path, you know, you're gonna go through here and follow the path for a while, and it will lead to this one area in real life that I forget what it's called, but there's gonna be a bunch of custom assets, and it's gonna be like a shanty town slash marketplace kind of vibe. And it's essentially for, there's a bunch of lore behind how it's already so crowded, because if you know anything about, you know, Fallout New Vegas lore, a lot of people actually don't know this, and I didn't know this for a while, is that it's only been 7 years since the Strip turned back on. So like, everything added into this mod, there's a lot of thought process of like maintaining the vanilla circumstances, just upscaling them. So with that, there was essentially like, House did like a massive campaign and kind of marketing thing, which by the way, he now has a vertibird fleet. So essentially he like for cheap attracted tons of wastelanders into Vegas to like get the economy going very quickly, and that resulted in a ton of people coming and then losing all their money and that shanty town forming. And obviously with, I've explained this kind of briefly in another video, but I have a medical condition that makes it hard for me to articulate myself to my full potential all the time, and then sometimes I kind of forget some things. So I have all the details of the lore written down in the design document, which is a work in progress. It's there's a lot of details that are very cemented, but it's a lot. It's like 160 pages, so there's no way I can just,
for all your energy weapon needs,
off the top of my head, explain it all. But everything is well thought out.
If it can be bought,
now, when you're in this area, you may want to lower the U grids back to 5, because there is a massive amount of assets outside of Freeside itself. And that's why my FPS is so low. If I had it at 5, it wouldn't be so low. Also, I want to explore during the day because it just looks better. Really, nothing in this mod is just like random. Like every single thing has an explanation. So yeah, I just had to explain that out. I'm not going to do that with everything, but I just want people to know that everything here is very well thought out. And kind of like with Fallout New Vegas in general, if you were to just look at Fallout New Vegas, like one video of it, or if you were to like read even its design document, you couldn't just read through it one time. You couldn't just watch one video on it and really get the intricacies and the layers to like the writing and the design. It takes numerous looks. And the same thing is with this mod. This mod is written and designed as intricately as Fallout New Vegas, which that's a lot to say for a mod, you know, and a lot of people may be kind of doubtful of that, and that's fine, but that is the case. I essentially was very sick for
Skillin' time.
Let's just do this. I was very sick for a long time. And essentially 2 years of my life where I was very ill, and I was working a full-time job, but it was a job that I was able to slack a lot, like barely do enough, just barely to get by. And a lot of the time I would work on this, and this essentially was like the only thing I could really excel at. And so I just put a ton of like mind space and effort into... I'm gonna have to turn the U grid down. So I could also just turn off NVR and keep the U grids on, but obviously you can see with the U grid not very high, it takes a while for stuff to load in. But anyways, yeah, like I was saying, I essentially was ill for a while, and I put a ton of time and a lot of thought into this because it was one of the few things I could excel at. And you know, obviously a lot of us, you know, we had dreams when we were younger of like modding this game. And so essentially, yeah, this was one of the few things that I could do given the illness that I had. And so I decided to do it. And the two biggest flaws in this game for me was Vegas itself, and then Caesar's Legion. And so this project, I spent a lot of time on that, but eventually I like just came up with the big vision that I have, you know, laid out in my design document. And so I'm essentially just saying all this to say that this is in fact like well thought out. Like it's not your typical mod project. And with the design document and how I'm laying things out, I'm essentially writing things to where like this project is here for the long run. Like I've made the layout of everything and all the details so that like there isn't something called scope creep, which is where like with other mod projects, and I'm not gonna be rude and say particular names, because after you have created something of like the sizes of these projects yourself, you realize really how hard it is. And so I never was like these people that would like hate on certain big mod projects, but you realize how hard it is and how time consuming it is, and these people do it for free. So I'm not gonna say what particular one or ones, but a lot of them get scope creep, where like a lot of things in the project just start to kind of be like disconjointed. And this project has laid out like all the details in a pretty intricate design document that I'm still polishing, but it's explained out the things so that like literally anyone can read it and see the idea. And that's really important for the longevity of a project, because it keeps the nuances there. And I wanted to do this for myself because I have so many like, I'm a person who is very big on like what ifs for series, and so I would always do this with so many different series, and like my family and friends would always just tell me like, dude, you need to write this stuff down or something, or like you know, they've just always told me I should do something about these ideas that I come up with. But it's really hard to remember all the nuances like years later, you know, especially because, you know, I care more about the real world than video games. I would have never done this project if I wasn't sick. And so I kind of like keep a lot of the nuances about, say, politics or history or whatever. Like that's what I kind of choose to keep in my mind. And some of the nuances with like this, you know, escapism and stuff, I kind of forget a lot of it, but that's why I wrote it all down. So, but I've spent over 2,000 hours on this, so I'm not hating on escapism at all. I'm just saying that like what it takes to do what I've done, it is very all-encompassing, and yeah, it has been done. So I guess all that spiel was just to kind of explain why I said this is as well thought out as like the base game itself in Fallout New Vegas. So this area, that big crater at the beginning, there's a... So,
Find you.
I'm going to run past these people.
Fresh meat.
So, there is now, shortly before the war went down, House made an agreement with Nuka Cola where they made a Western version of Nuka Cola, and it's called Nuka Red. And it only made it to shelves a couple days before the bombs because they had an explosion like logo on it, and basically Sugar Bombs copyrighted them and was like basically a bunch of political BS, and so it didn't make it to shelves till a couple days before the bombs dropped. And so that explains why you don't see Nuka Red everywhere. It's only going to be in this area. And that crater, they put stuff to make it, I forget the word exactly, but basically when it likes glowing and it glows in and out, I forget the word for that, but anyway, so like it glows in and out of red, and it has like an explosive like quality to it where it like fizzles in your stomach and kind of like feels like fireworks massaging your innards, basically is how it's explained. And those same unknown chemicals that cause that unique Nuka Red quality, essentially when the bombs dropped in this area got isolated for a long time, it just festered for over 200 years and basically exploded one day. And so this area, like where that crater is going to just be covered in Nuka Red. And there's going to be, this area was an NCR like trading post. So like the NCR had like came here and set up shop. And essentially with that going off and the lore behind why it went off, they don't know, like nobody knows if the NCR was kind of like digging around trying to get into the facility or whatever happened. But essentially these another underground subterranean vault for the Nuka Red, which that's another thing, is Mr. House and Sunset Sarsaparilla had like basically a beef now where like the Sunset Sarsaparilla didn't want to take part in like what House was trying to do, and so it wanted to stay independent and not be monopolized. So it was like kind of like a less capitalistic thing and more like a family, like caring about the product type thing. And so that's what caused Mr. House to do the thing with the Nuka Cola Red. And yeah, that things ended up failing because of the explosion thing and copyright infringement from Sugar Bombs, and it resulted in that exploding. And the NCR were here and they got like mutated into these they're not ghouls, they're called pistulars. I might be pronouncing that wrong, I can't even remember what I named them. Or pustulars, and they're like these big, they have these big boils, and the boils like spit out liquid and stuff. But yeah, this water here is going to be Nuka Red, and you're going to be able to like swim deep down in it and like get inside of the facility from swimming in it. So yeah, but as you can see from what I explained, so there was a lot of thought. Oh, and also the original reason I wanted this area here is I just wanted there to be, because Mr. House has a grid in game that keeps bombs or whatever from hitting into the strip. So I wanted there to be an area where it made sense why like things were super destroyed. So I wanted a destroyed area. And originally I wanted to make this the blast site from Mothership Zeta DLC, which is no longer necessarily canon in this project, but I kind of just wanted it as like a homage, and like I was gonna do that, but I decided to make it the Nuka Red instead. But there is going to be, as you saw those alien ships, there is a couple aliens in this area for other reasons that I'll explain another time. But long story short, I have explained the aliens in this mod project. a lot of lore, and I didn't think I was going to go over all of that, but I'm making aliens make sense. So like why they abduct people. Oh, and also another huge thing that aliens are doing.
If it can be bought, it can be founded. Mick and Ralph.
They explain the paranormal issues. So Tim Kaine himself said that the whole paranormal stuff was, you know, tonally inconsistent. And I agree. And I think it's something that needs to be kind of grounded in a more scientific explanation. So now the aliens are that explanation. So synaptide is basically derived from human emotions, and there's so many different things revolving around the synaptide and what kind of synaptide you get. So like different scenarios gets different kinds of synaptide. And so essentially the paranormal stuff and being spooky and all that stuff, it all comes from the aliens. So in the Fallout universe, all the paranormal stuff is from aliens, just messing with humans to evoke a certain strand of synaptide to then extract it and use it as a drug or use it for whatever other purpose they need it for. So when I say I have really thought about the lore and done a lot, you have to read the design document. And now this video is just going to be so freaking long because I'm explaining this stuff, but it's whatever. So this next part here that I'm going to show,
Hey!
So this next part here that I'm going to show, I'm probably going to put this at the beginning of the video or near the beginning so that like I keep people hooked in. But there's a reason I've had this jetpack on, which another side tangent before I go up, I've designed these locations with jetpacks in mind. So everything is designed with the thought of someone having a jetpack and flying around. If you fly too high, Mr. House has satellite systems that shoot down anything in the sky that doesn't have an encryption code. So essentially you can't fly over those walls without getting shot. Now there are some areas where you can fly over walls and you'll just be able to load through into the next cell. So there's a lot of thought that goes into this. But let's fly up here and kind of give a view of what we got going on here. So this is what I mean by Freeside is 10 times the size. We're gonna fly around here. And obviously, these are all going to be in their own individual cells. But you can see here that Freeside is massive. Also, I should probably turn this off. So let's do this. Player.set AV speed molt 500. Okay, I guess the jetpack doesn't get affected by that. There's some enemies here. Also slows you down quite a bit. There we go. TM. Okay. So we're gonna pretend we're right here again. Come up. So yeah, as you can see, Freeside is literally like 10 times the size. And this is why in my first video I didn't show it off, because like I wasn't trying to make the video too long, and I didn't explain a lot of the lore because obviously you see how long it takes.
We've got stuff we're not even allowed.
Oh my gosh, she is so annoying. Oh, obviously, as this is just a pre-alpha, I'm going to, oh yeah, look at that view. These are all going to be put in their own cells, obviously. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of build them all in one cell so that I had like a realistic layout, so that like I can just copy and paste these into their own cell, and that way it all connects properly. And a big reason why I want to do that is because I am planning on building an interconnected sewer system that like is realistic and actually spans across everything. I'm also doing this with the rails as well. So like there are rails, and I've made sure that like the rails actually lead somewhere instead of just leading into nothing. And I'll actually show you this right here. Also, each area has their own vibe. So like the old Mormon fort over here that you saw, which I moved it to over here, this area feels kind of like Western, like this was an old part of Freeside that they like preserved and like, you know, kept the old vibes. You know how some cities do that, where they're like, you can't touch these buildings or whatever. So yeah, this has its own little Western vibe, like imagine, and I'm in my underwear. Whatever, I'll be in my underwear. It would have looked better with the ranger armor, but imagine just walking down this way with your cowboy gear on, you know. Yeah, it'd look pretty cool. So, also in the lore, Mr. House basically turned Vegas and Freeside into like an island, and so these mega tunnels are the only way into the areas, and there's a handful of these mega tunnels. And I kind of explained that in my first video, but I'm not gonna explain it again. Obviously, yeah, so you can see this rail, it actually will go through there, and again, another thing here too, so something I really liked about Fallout 3 is Fallout 3, in my opinion, is one of the best designed game worlds, like, ever. Like, I like basically everything about it. I even like the metro systems, which is why I'm going to be creating something similar to the metros with the sewer system in Fallout New Vegas, because I liked all of it. It is, for me, which I don't play a lot of video games, I'm only really into RPGs. Fallout 3 has one of the best designed worlds, and I like how like it felt like there was just like an ocean of buildings in Fallout 3. And so I did the same thing here in New Vegas, but while still having it feel like Vegas. And the thing is, right, is this is a retro future world. And if you look at Fallout 1 and 1 especially, I haven't really played 2 that much. But 1, the buildings feel really foreign, and it feels like a different world. Like, it's not just 1950s America. And so my whole thing is, like, I'm giving myself creative freedom here to, like, not just have it be based off the world. And there's a lot of people, like, a lot of Fallout elitists, like, Fallout New Vegas elitists, which, you know, I only play Fallout New Vegas and Morrowind, so, like, you could call me that, but I'm just not the same as them, even though I'm probably more hardcore, and I don't even really, I don't even really call myself a gamer, because I don't really like most games. But you have some elitists that just have, like, no nuance whatsoever, and they're just, like, they're obsessed with, like, being an elitist. Like, to them, they're not really actually thinking logically. They've just said, I like Fallout New Vegas, Fallout New Vegas is the best, and so their actual criticism, they don't really actually have objective criticism. And so a lot of them, they equate Fallout New Vegas, because Fallout New Vegas was realism. They think that, like, extreme realism is better than spectacle. And I just could not disagree more. Like, this is a game world, and it's supposed to be interesting and fun. And the thing is they like it when it's old world blues, or like Lonesome Road is not what it's like in real life. Like, you got a bunch of skyscrapers off of a mountainside cliffs. Like, that doesn't happen in real life. But they don't complain about that, because again, it's not about objective reasoning. They've just kind of hyper fixated on Fallout New Vegas. And so yeah, they will just accept it if it's from Fallout New Vegas. But if say a mod does that or whatever, or God forbid Bethesda, yeah, they are not gonna like that. So I like spectacle. I think Fallout 3 did an amazing job at designing locations outside of logistics, right? Like, they didn't explain how people survive very well. And, you know, to be fair, back in 2008, most games didn't care. Fallout New Vegas was just ahead of its time, and I honestly, like, I don't really play Fallout 3 anymore, but it does suck for Fallout 3 to be compared to Fallout New Vegas. Like, most games cannot compete with Fallout New Vegas. And is why I just play Fallout New Vegas mainly, and Morrowind, but I don't really enjoy Morrowind. Like, I enjoy it intellectually, so I really don't play it that much, because for me, you have to have a baseline of, you have to have, like, I think they're called havoc physics, right? So, like, you have to have ragdolls for me. You have to feel human enough for me to play the game. That's it. And Fallout New Vegas is a couple levels above my minimum threshold, so. But yeah, no, I really like how Fallout 3 was designed, and so it's inspiring me to do that, but it's not just about spectacle. Like, I think about logistics. Like, these things are thought out, like where people park. That's something that neither of these games do very good. Like, they don't consider where people park, and I do that in this game. Or in this mod, I mean. So. And each area, if you notice, it has its own vibe. That's very intentional. They all have their own vibe. And a big thing I wanted to do with Freeside is I wanted to represent how Freeside sustains itself. So, like, there needs to be housing, there needs to be businesses outside of Fremont. And I don't want Fremont to have a bunch of houses or have a bunch of, like, businesses. It should mainly be casinos or, like, small shops. And so all these areas, all this here is just created to support the idea that, oh, and by the way, I'm going to make these trees more dead. So, like, these trees are dead, but these are going to be dead too. I just haven't created the textures yet. But everything around here is to support the idea that the Fremont area or Freeside actually can sustain itself. Like, that those houses, I'm not saying the right words right now. I just wanted it, I wanted representative areas showing that this is a full-on city, basically. And a huge thing here is like, I didn't want to overdo it or underdo it. So like, I made these locations bigger than vanilla ones, but not so big that they feel like too big. Like, because some mod projects will do that, where like they make it realistically big, and then it just is too stark of a difference from the vanilla game. Whereas what I'm doing here is I have made them bigger, but not so big to where it's not noticeable, but then, yeah. And then this area here is a part of House's industrial expansion. So these are a bunch of business buildings and stuff. And for some reason, just the vibe of this area feels like Fallout 1 to me. And so I just kind of like it. Like, I don't know. Obviously not directly, because like some of the buildings in Fallout 1 are just crazy. And I'd low-key like to like have some buildings here and there that kind of are reminiscent of Fallout 1. But, oh, this area, by the way, this rubble, there's a reason it's there. Like, it's actually placed there. But yeah, you can see here, right, like, representation for housing. Like, all these houses are here to make it feel like, wow, Fremont really was a place where, like, tons of people came and visit. Like, whereas in vanilla, it's just like, oh, here's the city. Oh, and another thing too is I didn't want to make this interior too big because
no more hiding for you.
In the vanilla world space, right? I did this illusion, this conjuration to make it feel like the inside is a lot bigger than it is on the outside. But I didn't want to make the inside too big to where then it just feels a little too jarring. Now, like, obviously we can only do what we can do because the only way to really fix this problem would be to completely recreate Fallout New Vegas's vanilla world space. And even then, like, the world spaces aren't big enough so that you would have to have, like, segmented world spaces to, like, make it actually the size of the desert, which, if someone was willing to do that, that would be cool, but that would just be a lot for anybody to do. And so essentially, I'm just explaining out why I did things the way I did here. So this area is like a business area here. And some of you may have noticed some bits and pieces and which this is what a lot of modders do, obviously, is some bits and pieces are copied from Fallout 3 or New Vegas and then like placed and then edited to like feel unique. So like this here was based off of a different area, this building here. So I copied this building here, and then these buildings are created by me, but yeah. So if that kind of feels familiar to an area in Fallout 3, that's why. But, and obviously I kind of need to fix that down there, but yeah, so. Okay, let's get back to explaining some lore. So this area is going to be something called Freeside slums. So a big thing that always kind of bothered me in vanilla was, where are all the Freeside thugs or lowlifes coming from? Like, where are they all hiding out? How are there so many of them? This area now is where they all hang out. This is going to be a different building that's kind of less destroyed. So they're going to be staying in this building, in the hospital, and then obviously in these buildings here and stuff. So this is where the slums, where all the low lives live, like drug addicts and stuff. And yeah, so this is ran by them. And they have an anarchist leader who, that would be a lot of lore to get into, but he essentially, there's an explanation why this area stays like in basically a state of anarchy. Because like I like to explain everything, right? So like an area just isn't like how it is just because it looks cool. It's like that for like a reason. And obviously these areas here aren't as polished as the main world, like I had stated. Like, I have to polish these further, obviously, but they're polished enough to where they're about at a place where I can start copying and pasting them into like other cells and then really start getting to work on things. I have some plans coming up, and obviously all of this work has been so much up to this point, like, it's insane. So this area is going to be an area where you can buy cars. So this is going to be like a shop area. This used to be a mechanic shop. This is a car dealership. And then this here, and this is going to be functioning, is where garbage trucks are. And so now Vegas has a functioning garbage place. And so they basically, these cars drive all throughout Freeside, the safe areas, and Vegas, and pick up the trash and take it to an area where they burn the trash, because super unhygienic, but obviously this is just a new post-apocalypse. And there was a landfill, but that landfill, some stuff happened to it, and I'm not going to explain all that lore right now, but let's just say it's going to be very spectacle-inducing and fun to explore. So now Super Duper Mart is an international thing. Like, Super Duper Mart is essentially the Walmart of the Fallout universe, and there's a bunch of cool lore behind that I've created. And Mr. House Industrializing, he essentially made Vegas like a billionaire paradise, and that's how he was able to doomsday prep Vegas to the extent that you're seeing here. And that's why it doesn't look, that's why it looks a little more, it looks more urbanized, but it still feels like Vegas. Like, that was something I was really trying to do, is like, I want it to feel more urbanized, but still have the identity of Vegas. So this area here, this big thing I wanted to do here was just like represent a handful of the houses that there would be in this area. So if you see like where Freeside or Fremont is in real life, there's like patches of houses here and there. Like just like it'll literally be a patch of like 6 houses. So this is honestly even kind of bigger than what is seen in the real world, but obviously with the vibes, you want to balance vibes. Like you don't want realism 100%. You walk in an area and you feel a vibe, and realism can really mess with that. Like for example, on the Strip, the Stratosphere in real life, there's a bunch of like old ran down houses next to it, because like how zoning works in real life is like, unless you're like China and you have like a communist or socialist government where like they can do a bunch of central planning, that doesn't really happen in real life. So you'll have like the casino, and then next to it some like shitty old houses from like the old people that are like, you know, like what's that one balloon cartoon where it's like, I ain't selling my house? I can't remember, but anyways, like that happens in real life. And so in a game, you can choose, do you want realism, or do you want a cool, fun vibe that feels real enough? And so yeah, that's why this patch of houses here like the way it is. Now I'm going to do this. Something else that I wanted to do, I kind of forgot it at the moment. Oh yeah, I was gonna explain this. So with NVR, this is gonna be, because it makes this black, but essentially on the outskirts of Freeside, there is going to be in the distance. So like say okay, so over here, but everywhere, if you can like somehow, okay, I'll show you one of the entrances. So you're mainly going to be able to get in through the sewers, but if you have a high enough lockpick, you can also get in through here. There is also going to be outside of here, when you get through here, just tons of houses, like tons of different houses and stuff. And you're going to get to go to the edge of the world, which for those of you who watched my first video or read the design document, Mr. House put a ton of explosives in the ground across all of Freeside and all of Vegas. And in his contingency, it's a long explanation, he had a contingency that like last case scenario, he was going to turn this area into an island so it was easier to protect, because like in case he got invaded by soldiers or whatever. Long story short, that he had 3 contingencies. That was the last one. They all went off when his systems malfunctioned and he went into a coma. And so now there is an edge of the world that you can go to, and then on the other end there's something similar to the Sierra Madre cloud, but it's purple, and I'm not going to go into the lore of it, but essentially I have made realistic, like immersive boundaries. And I've also done that not just for Freeside and Strip, but for like the worlds. Like for example, Fallout 3, there is this one psycho guy who has access to like a nuclear facility, and he nukes around the premise of the DC, and like there's basically an irradiative fog barrier which prevents you from just flying around wherever you want or whatever. And like I said, with this mod, I've considered jetpacks and flying, so I'm like immersively adding in like barriers to these things that modders have created, so that like you can fly around and then not just like break your game and take yourself out of the gaming experience. So there's been a lot of thinking that goes into all of these additions. But what else do I, oh, last thing I gotta show here. So I'm gonna show a little bit more of here, more on the ground. Dang, and I meant to keep my UI off this whole time, but I forgot. So yeah, that nugget place is, yeah. Let's run through here. So this is a big thing that I want to show off. So Vegas has a prison, and this prison is functional, but it's in its beginning early stages. And I do have plans for like some cool stuff surrounding this. Like one of the mechanics, right, is going to be like picking up criminals from across the waste that like rich people pay Mr. House to like house in here. I have a lot of ideas for this, but it's longer term ideas. But this is a prison, basically. And yeah, so Mr. House, being as smart as he is, you got to think of all the logistics of what an actual city state would need, because like that's what House created, was a place that he prepped to function for post-war, a place that could reignite the high-tech centers, a place that the NCR and the Legion would fight over in a distant land, a place that Kaiser said, which I'm saying Kaiser, I'm not a fan of the Legion. I'm not. I typically, I'm going to go not independent. I'm typically going to go Mr. House, but in real life I would go independent. So yeah, I don't even know why I said it like that, but essentially a place that Caesar, Kaiser, whatever, that he would, that would be his Rome. He said, I have cities, you know, I have cities back home, which back home is like Denver, Colorado, Phoenix, Arizona. Caesar has massive cities. So you're telling me that what the location is in vanilla is something better than what he has back home? It's not. And so I wanted this area to feel like something that was truly better. And the size, I can say I'm pretty happy with the size of what I've done, because if you were to make it any bigger than this, then it would start feeling too big for the other locations in Fallout. Like, I don't want it to overshadow other things in Fallout to such an extent to where it like feels unrealistic, right? Now with the strip, I've kind of pushed it pretty close to the limit on purpose, because I want the strip to feel like max extravagance in the retro future, you know, setting of Fallout New Vegas. Like, Mr. House is a technologist and has done all these crazy cool things, right? So that's what I wanted it to feel like. But for the vast majority of the world, it's built big enough to where it's representative. Like, if you walk through this, it feels like a full-on city. It feels realistic, and your brain, it's big enough to where your brain fills in the spaces, and you really feel like this is a place that could really function in real life. And honestly, it could, but it just really, it's about making something representative. And Fallout 3 does a good job at this, a really good job with like the metros and how you're going through the metros. The DC area feels massive. The DC area feels absolutely massive. It feels like a genuine city. And so, yeah, that was the goal here. And we're achieving the same, and there's going to be a lot of areas. Some of those areas I went through, you're not just going to be able to walk through those doors. Like, the doors are going to be covered in rubble. Oh, I forgot the last place to show you. A lot of these areas are going to be covered in, don't crash. A lot of these areas are going to be,
can be bought. It can be found.
like this over here is going to be blocked off with rubble, because it's a dangerous area. And so you're only going to be able to get in through the sewers. So there's that. Okay, let's player.set AV speed walls 1000. So as a part of Mr. House's industrial expansion, he made 2 mega factories. So one is based off of Boeing, and that's closer to the strip itself. And then in Freeside, he made this one. This is like a massive garage. This area here. And this area is specifically designed for a new faction that I created. And this faction, they're religious zealots. So I wanted to, there was a new dynamic here, and there's reasons why they're not really a part of the main story, unless like you, the player character, go out of your way to like make it happen. Because like logistically, they're not in a place to really do anything about Vegas, but there's implications that in the future, there'll be a thing. And you can see about it if you want. Go into the design document, do Control F, and click Kingdom. So type in Kingdom, and you'll be able to read about them. But these factions, all the factions that I have added into the game, they're designed in such a way to where like they don't affect the main story directly. They're like side content, and they have limitations. They have their pros and have their cons, just like vanilla, like they're nuanced gray factions. Alrighty. Honestly, I think I'd give up on the spin around. Maybe we'll just use this as bait. Alright, so that was the video. I think I said basically everything I wanted to say. If you watch to the end, if you watch to the end, leave a, I don't know. If you watch to the end, leave the smiley face with a cowboy hat. If they don't have that on YouTube, just leave, I guess 2 smiley faces with teeth. So I know that you watched the whole video. There's going to be more updates coming soon. So, or I shouldn't say soon, but soon when it comes to how long stuff usually takes with modding projects. So yeah, just be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and you can also hit track on the Nexus to see when I upload a new file. So I appreciate all the support so far, and I hope you all have a good one.